Hi there, everyone. Welcome to our TEN Life Science Syndicate. We have a little different schedule today. Unfortunately, our CEO, Hall Martin, will not be joining us, but that's okay because we have a wonderful panelist, Dan from NJ Angels, and we have Christina from Acorto. So, Christina, do you want to go ahead and talk about what Acorto does?
Sure. So I'll go ahead and would you like me to go ahead and start presenting, or would you like me to just give a brief intro into Accordo?
Oh, you can go ahead and, start however you'd like. You can go
Sure.
into brief or you can go into the presentation.
Absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. I have about 5 minutes of presentation developed, giving an introduction into our firm, as well as a little bit of insights into what we're seeing in the industry right now to give everyone a little bit of a snapshot into the regulatory changes that we're seeing with the FDA, especially following the administration. Okay, so thank you so much to TEN Capital and everyone for joining us today. I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to be discussing FDA shifts and strategic solutions with a little bit of an introduction into Accordo, who we are, and what we're seeing in today's FDA environment. So before I jump into it, I'm Christina Haesmer. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives with Accordo Regulatory Solutions. I work collaboratively with industry, with our clients, and with our internal team to really focus on the problems that we are seeing our clients have with their regulatory projects and find solutions to those projects to allow our customers to reach their regulatory goals strategically and efficiently. Accordo Regulatory Solutions is a regulatory compliance firm. We're a virtual firm located across every time zone here in the US, and we focus on helping small to mid-sized domestic and international companies navigate the US regulatory landscape to bring their FDA-regulated products to market across the medical, biotech, diagnostics, and pharmaceutical sectors, with the majority of our expertise really coming in the medical and pharmaceutical sectors. That's where the majority of our clients land. Instead of being simply a consulting firm, we deliver full turnkey regulatory support for our clients in these spaces, managing everything from strategy development to execution, designed to meet the unique needs of each of our clients efficiently and effectively. We do this through our deep bench of industry experts with 19 full-time team members in the
Wow.
regulatory space, GMP space, labeling experts, seasoned executives, really everything you would need in order to launch your project efficiently. Like I said, we are not just consultants. We offer everything from regulatory strategy through post-market surveillance. One of the big things we offer that may be of interest to those on this call today is our investor regulatory due diligence program. This is something we offer to small startup companies as well as investors. It allows these organizations to secure funding faster by providing both startups and investors with expert regulatory insights to validate pathways, reduce risks, and build confidence in investment decisions. In addition to that, we also offer GMP compliance, regulatory publishing, regulatory submission support, and post-market surveillance. Because it takes a bit more than just regulatory support to get everything you need to get to market, we also have a full global network of clinical research organizations who are on call and ready to assist with our project's unique requirements. This includes everything from clinical studies to non-clinical studies, cybersecurity risk assessments, and electrical safety testing. And if we don't have something in our network that is needed to get your product to market, we will go out and source the correct clinical research organization, add them to our network, and make sure we have everything you need to get to market efficiently. Now, with the last bit of my time here, I want to jump in and give you guys a little bit of a snapshot of what we're seeing in the industry, especially in light of with questions we've been receiving from our clients and the broader uncertainty that's circulating right now within the FDA regulated product space. With the new administration settling in, the FDA is experiencing some staff changes, most notably within the Center for Biologics, where high-level departures have introduced ambiguity around policy direction and review continuity. This center is likely to see the greatest impact in the short term, especially as new leadership and agency priorities take shape. With that said, in the medical device industry, the outlook has stayed much more stable. From what we've observed, review timelines and agency responsiveness at CDRH has remained consistent, and we've seen no slowdown in activity, and communications from the agency have been clear and timely with our projects. Adding to that, many of you have probably seen the HHS restructuring in force directive that came out on March 22nd. That kicked off really in force last week, as you probably saw with the 10,000 staff reduction in force across the HHS committees. Now, it's important to note that in the HHS restructuring plan, they did specifically point out that within the medical device space, reviewers and inspection staff are not planned to be impacted by these layoffs, which we are seeing with our projects right now, it being a strong signal that we should not at this time expect any major disruptions in the device space. Now, something that you may not be aware of is on policy updates, with the most recent update of note that in the diagnostics front, a recent Texas court decision blocked the FDA's plan to enforce new regulations for laboratory developed tests. As of this year, LDTs were planned to be regulated under the same frameworks as medical devices. However, the Texas court actually set the FDA to set aside this directive. And so as of right now, laboratory developed tests are going to remain under the CLIA regulatory framework and will not be regulated as medical devices as originally planned for this year. While this may come as a relief to a lot of labs, this also could potentially create some uncertainty, especially for diagnostics companies operating in the gray space between medical device and LDTs. In summary, while there's a definite change happening at the FDA, we do remain optimistic about the state of the medical device industry specifically. The agency appears to be committed to continuity in reviews and inspections, and we're not seeing signs of slowdown in device evaluations. So for right now, we do feel confident in advising our clients to move forward with their regulatory strategies as planned. As I said, this is just a small snapshot of everything that we're seeing. There is a lot going on at the agency, as I'm sure you all are aware. That is why we are taking an active approach to keeping track of everything and tracking all of these impacts for our clients. We do have all of these listed on our website under the FDA Changes in Motion tab, so you can follow along and stay informed with the shifts as they happen in real time. And that'll go much more in depth with the things that we are seeing at the agency in real time. Thank you all so much for having me. If you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to take those now and further discuss this.
Thank you, Christina. For those who are just joining, can you give us a small, brief description of what you do at Accorto?
Absolutely. So I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives with Accorto Regulatory Solutions. I work with our industry partners and with our clients to take a look at the regulatory challenges they're facing on a day-to-day basis, then work with our internal team at Accorto to come up with bespoke solutions to help our clients achieve their goals from a regulatory standpoint.
Great. I think that's very helpful for the people who are just coming in. Dan, you have a question?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Christina, thanks a lot. You covered a huge amount of ground. Really a big top-down look-see. What I was hoping for was sort of a bottoms-up. In other words, when somebody buys, like I'm going to invest behind a company that does in fact need these services. All the companies I invest in need these services. So I'm trying to bridge the real world, the smart, the specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-based events, so that we know how efficient, because you said it like 5 times, how effective you can help my clients be, so I can recommend you. You follow me? They're going to choose. They're looking through a whole list of options, and everyone's got features and benefits, and a lot of them say something similar to what you said. But there is a shift. You're at the forefront here, and you guys might be a little smarter or faster than the competitors. I'm just wondering, what kind of examples might you share with us?
I think some of the main things that would assist with that are what we call our rescue submissions. That's when clients come to us who have worked with previous consultants or have tried to conduct these projects on their own and have ended up working 3, 4, even 5 years in some instances of going back and forth with their regulatory submissions with the FDA, back and forth, trying to get these products onto market themselves. Our team then jumps in and takes a look at everything that they've done over the past couple of years and is able to formulate a plan on how we are going to overcome the obstacles that they've seen over the past couple of years and get them to market in much more expedited fashion than they've seen previously. I think offline, I'd be happy to discuss with you some more specifics on those exact examples, but I think those rescue submissions are exactly what you're looking for in terms of measurable success.
Well, okay, fair enough. And there's a whole bunch of real world examples that are true for that. I'm also sometimes with the kitchen table entrepreneurs who are sort of gearing up and getting their act together, not for the first time to the rodeo, but for this new venture. So if you have like a primer or, regular workshops, something that we can refer those folks to you as, suspects, prospects, maybe you turn them into candidates. I'll be happy to do that. Thanks a lot. And could you send that brochure over just so I can get smarter about this? And are you physical, many locations, or virtual many locations? How do you guys set up?
We're a virtual firm. However, we do have employees located in every time zone across the US. So what we're able to do from a GMP standpoint is get them where they need to be quickly if they need to be on site with our potential clients. However, if we can do it virtually to save money and save funds for our clients, we will absolutely do that. But of course, on site is always beneficial, especially for the newer companies that really need a hand-to-hand experience. So we're happy to do that as well.
Thank you very much. I see Guy.
It looks like Guy has a question.
It was only really hands across the water that we're having exactly the same in Europe as the transition from MDD to MDR goes on. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows where it's going. Everybody's got their applications in. They will be approved. It was going to be last year, this year, next year, never. So good luck to all of us. We've got ours in for the FDA. We're a 505B, which I'd never heard of prior to this, because we're a device in Europe. We're a drug device or a drug in the States. I don't know what we are in. We're a nutraceutical somewhere else. Who knows? But it's interesting times at the moment. So we should all we wish ourselves the best of luck.
Absolutely.
Russ, do you have a question? Looks like you're muted. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't have a question. Is my hand up or something on the? Can you hear me?
It was. I lowered it for you. No
Oh,
problem.
I'm sorry. Somehow my mouse must have wandered down there.
That's totally fine. Okay, great. Well, we'll go ahead and go into Combat Medical's pitch, if that's okay with you, Guy.
Perfectly fine. My colleagues and my wife will all tell you that I like nothing more than the sound of my own voice. So always happy to speak. I hope everybody can hear me.
We can hear you, yes. And usually
everybody can understand my beautiful English accent.
Absolutely. This is usually a timed portion, but because we only have one pitch, I'm just going to let you go off and.
Oh no! No, we don't want to do
That's the
that.
most dangerous thing. I can see Jenna's head in her hands somewhere in the background, but no, I got a tight 10.
Stick to the script, sir. You rock.
It's like my comedy corner route. I've got a tight 10. Don't you worry. Let's go. Yeah. Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Perfectly.
Looks good.
It's coming. I'll start the clock off. We go. Hello, my name's Guy Cooper, Dr. Guy Cooper even. I'm the biz dev guy for Combat Medical. Our CEO is sunning himself in Thailand at the moment on holiday. So you get me and our CFO, Jenna Pelotti is here as well if you've got real questions to ask. We are raising 5 million at the moment, 2.5 million already raised, and we're looking to use this to pay for our ongoing FDA trial. Now, the FDA trial has cost 7. We've put in the first 2, our existing investors 2.5, and this is me looking for the other 2.5. Right, so what do we do? This is the problem. There's no innovation that's effective, affordable, and tolerable in the world's most expensive cancer. That's a big statement. What is the world's most expensive cancer? Bladder cancer. You don't hear a lot about it. Historically seen as a highly recurrent disease of poor old people, but people are getting wealthier and people are living longer. So the disease is becoming much, much more important to healthcare providers, to funders, to companies. A little bit about us, because as well as being a MD, I'm also an evil capitalist, so I can tell you a little bit about the numbers. We exist. We've done more than 100,000 procedures worldwide. We're in 30, 40 countries. Last year's revenue, 4.3 million. 700,000 EBITDA. I can't lie about the numbers. Our CFO's on the call. Goodness me. So we're EBITDA positive. We turn over money. We exist. We're in many, many places. Lots of clinical publications. Not the absolute definitive FDA one yet, but that's why I'm here. And a patent protected application that has multiple cancer opportunities to treat. So what is it? Here we go. You see a gentleman here lay on a couch in a outpatients department having chemotherapy applied directly, heated chemotherapy applied directly, targeted only to the affected organ, in this case the bladder. Very low side effects. There's no systemic effects because it only goes to the place where it's treating. And our whole technology is around powerful, precise heating of that organ. This is all based on a heat exchanger that we have. We have a global patent on making heat exchangers that you use to heat therapeutic fluids out of metal. Now, I'm an orthopedics doctor by background, so I don't know how much urology I remember, but I remember even less physics. But I do remember that metal is a conductor and plastic that everybody else has to use is an insulator. This is why only we can heat in this precise way. It's a little bit of a lie. We have licensed our tech to Medtronic for their blood warmers, but everybody else has to use plastic. We control the pressure beautifully. Pressure and flow are related. But importantly, if the pressure is low, the patient is comfortable, the nurse can do the procedure, the nurse doesn't go upstairs to complain to the doctor, your procedures get done, your patients get treated. As I said, I'm from an orthopedics background. We are simple surgeons, so I explain immunology and cellular biology in a very simple way. Here's a beautiful English analogy. Hypothermia works because more dissolves in a hotter solvent. If I have a hot cup of tea, more sugar dissolves in it. If I have hot urothelial cells in a bladder, 40% more mitomycin chemotherapy dissolves in it, 60% more gemcitabine chemotherapy dissolves in it, and so on. Heat acts as a catalyst. If you remember your chemistry classes at school, if we heat it up, it works faster. 80% greater cell death at 43 degrees C. I'm reliably informed this is 109.6 degrees Fahrenheit for you guys on this side of the pond. Finally, here's a picture of every Englishman on holiday in California. But to me, this means that cells cannot tolerate heat. Specifically, cancer cells are targeted and we get direct thermal cell death. Why 43 degrees? Well, I used to say it was my age. I'm 53 now, so it tells you how long I've been doing the same jokes. But at that level, the healthy cells will just about sweat off and thermoregulate the heat. Much higher when they start to die. However, the fragile cells, the damaged cells, the tumoral cells cannot tolerate it. So we get direct thermal cancer-specific cell death. And then something happens from an immunologic point of view. When the cells are heated, they give off something called heat shock proteins. This leads to a T-cell mediated immune response. This means that there is a remembered and learned immune response to cancer in the body. So when it reappears, the immune system attacks it again, reducing the recurrence. Today, A patient will come in with hematuria, normally bleeding when in your urine. A small procedure, transurethral endoscopic procedure to remove. Then the standard treatment is they have 27 doses of immunotherapy directly into their bladder, or they have 15 doses of chemotherapy directly into their bladder. 80% of patients have recurrence, 50% in the first year. Highly, highly recurrent, poorly treated, yet this has been the gold standard for more than 40 years. If it keeps happening and the cancer keeps coming back and it comes back worse, you have your bladder removed and a lifetime of incontinence care. If we look at combat, the pathway is the same. Patient turns up, patient has same operation, but then 15 treatments over a year, so many fewer than the immunotherapy treatment, and around 70% of bladders saved. Reduced recurrence rate, reduced progression rate, progression being when the cancer comes back, but worse. Fewer bladders removed. Now, if we look at our clinical evidence that backs this up, 174 patients. If we look at these guys who have carcinoma in situ, just think of these guys as the worst ones. These are who the US FDA are looking specifically at treatments for. We are about 70% no cancer at a year. Is that good, bad, indifferent? Well, I don't know, but let's take a look at what other people are doing. Our friends at Merck, who have a little drug that you may know called Keytruda, with a market value of about $30 billion worldwide. Only 40% of their patients have no cancer at 3 months. This means that 6 out of 10 of their patients have cancer again after 90 days, and this is FDA approved. Ferring, another large pharma company making large deals on their gene therapy. Again, only half of their patients after 12 weeks. CG Oncology launched last year on the NASDAQ, single product, single aim to treat, market cap of nearly 2 billion. Their results are a little better at 3 months, but after a year, less than half of their patients are cancer-free. And Immunity Bio, the same, bigger market cap, poorer results. What this means to the patients is that, for us, HIVEC, hypothermic, intravesical chemotherapy, after a year, out of 10 patients, 7 are cancer-free. For the FDA-approved Keytruda, the first drug to be approved 2-3 years ago, after 3 months, out of 10 of their patients, 6 out of 10 have cancer again. And this is the gold standard. As I say, we have a $7 million clinical trial. The number is so low because the FDA were kind to us and they allowed us to do the trial in the UK. So it isn't a $70 million trial. We've paid the first 2. Our current investors have paid the next 2.5, and we're looking to you guys to pay the next one. Because it's so poorly treated, this cancer, interim results come quickly. That 3-month results comes quickly. It's not like a hip or a knee where you have to wait 10 years. Interim results and valuation inflection in 26, FDA approval expected at the end of the study in 29. We're everywhere, apart from here. We're all over the world, different countries. Just quickly what the serviceable, obtainable market looks like. 10,000 of these worst failure patients, like those 54 guys a year in the US, new every year. 15 treatments, which the mathematicians amongst you will see is 150,000 treatments at $4,000 a disposable, giving a sum of 600 million a year in the US. If we look at the total addressable market, 800,000 patients a year. Prices vary. We sell for $400, not 4,000 in some of our developing markets, but still getting on for a 10 billion market. And the market's getting bigger. People are getting older. People are wanting treatments. This is something that is a big driver for the FDA and global healthcare providers. How do we work? Well, that's what a patient is worth to us. In terms of revenue, razor blade model. We've placed a lot of systems over the years. We'll place some more in the US hopefully soon. Single-use disposable kits against low price capital. Good margins, always good margins in device, 80%. And our distributors can get 50%, which is what they need. We already have a big global network of distributors. As our data gets better, acceptance gets better, reimbursement gets better, that will grow on its own. And our product mix is pretty good now. It's mostly single-use kits. Even if that just grew on its own globally, we would expect sales of around 100 million by 2030. If we look at the team, you see me and Jenna on there, the boss is on holiday. We've raised a lot of money in the past. We've done a couple of IPOs. I've done one, Edward's done one. And our clinical advisory board reads as a global who's who of bladder cancer and hypothermia. There's American surgeons on here, there's Canadians, there's Europeans, there's all sorts. So there's your problem. There's no innovation that's effective. 7 out of 10 at a year, affordable, $60,000 a treatment versus $4,000, tolerable, global with terrible side effects versus warming your bladder up in the world's most expensive cancer. So it's us, Combat Hyvec, versus some of these small companies you see on the right, Ferring, Merck, a couple with $2 billion market caps. We're cancer-free at 70% of a year. Theirs is only between 40 and 68 at 3 months. We are affordable, yet profitable. They are big numbers. Low side effects, high side effects. We've done a lot of treatments. These characters on the right-hand side have done fewer than 10,000 treatments in total. As I say, we're looking for 2.5 for the rest of this trial. Trade sale or IPO. First inflection point in 26. Come in now, get your money back in 26 if you want. We've been told by due diligence, I believe, by TEN Capital, who are in this room, that we will have a post-data valuation of 1.6 billion. Now, whether that comes in 26 or 29, it will be a lot bigger in 26 when the FDA have those 3-month trial results that they're looking for. Now you see our pathway here. Series A currently. There will be a Series B at some stage, probably in 27, 28, as we prepare for US entry, probably of around 10 million US, most of which to prepare the drugs. We have an agreement with the largest manufacturer of the standard drug for this, and we hope that an awful lot of that will go into making the product, which can then be transformed to cost of goods rather than investment, because we'll put the product on the shelf and sell it. I went a bit over my 10, but I had the wriggle room today. So thank you very much. Happy to take any questions, and Jenna's here if you've got finance questions as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Guy. That was an awesome presentation. Dan, do you have any questions for Guy or Jenna? Yes.
I have 1,000 questions for Guy and Jenna. You know, we have time, and I would like to have Guy go back with the deck when he talked about this Hyvec can be used with many drugs, which means that it can treat many organs. And this apparently lowest hanging fruit, along with peritoneal tumors, is generating revenue, because these, and we went right by that map of the world, which you come right up front, sir. You are everywhere here, and this is a natural.
Jenna has to sign my expenses.
adoption.
She knows that I'm in every country of the world.
That guy. So, by the way, you might want to show the mechanism of action inside, why he's lighting up, and then how there's a before and after with people. You might need to block his face. These two instruments, is one of them peritoneal, the other for the bladder cancer?
And the peritoneal treatments, this is for big, nasty spread cancers of the abdomen. Hyvec, our bladder treatment, like all good ideas, we stole from somebody else. There's been a treatment around for about 30 years called HIPEC, hypothermic intraperitoneal chemotherapy, invented by a US surgeon who sits on our advisory board with a wonderful name of Paul Sugarbaker, often referred to as the Sugarbaker technique. One of these surgeons who was seen as a madman when he started doing this, and now is seen as the father of this entire sort of subsection of pathology.
That is
the
so
concept is
valuable to know that. You have this huge upon the shoulders of brilliant
yes,
people.
of
You
giants.
stand now the next level up. Good. Okay.
He realized, as many surgeons do, that sometimes if you've got a really nasty cancer that's spread throughout your entire abdomen, they'll do a big peritonectomy for 8, 10, 12 hours, and they know they've missed a bit. So let's have a wash of chemotherapy locally. And they know that it works better if it's warm. So let's have a wash of warm chemotherapy locally. And that's what they do. And there's probably, I don't know, north of 100 places in the US that do it, maybe much more. There's 70 in Germany, 40 in Spain, 2 in the UK. We don't believe in it in the UK. We're terrible, cold-blooded, cynical Northern Europeans, but it's coming. And probably a third, 25% of our revenue is in this HIPEC procedure. The rest in bladder, we have 3 other products in development and in the line with our friends at MDR and MDD being registered in Europe. One for treatment of late ovarian cancer, one for some analysis around this, and one for treatment of inoperable rectal and lower colon cancer. The concept remains the same. If you can wash an area that has lots of, or a few, cancer cells in a chemotherapy, and it doesn't matter what chemotherapy, we are drug agnostic.
Yeah.
Then it'll work better. And
Which one is which? The tall and skinny guy is the new one, the HIVEC?
Yes. So the big one with all the bumps on the front is for doing HIPEC. It stands about 6 foot off the ground because you're moving around 4-5 liters of fluid, so everything has to be bigger. And the one on the left, the little sort of desktop one, which is about the same size as an air fryer, is just something that sits on wheels, as you see in the outpatients department here. And the patients won't even be on a bed like this. The patients just come in and they're on a couch. These patients are coming in today for bladder, and they just have a catheter put in, cold chemotherapy put into their bladder, and they're told to lay on the bed for an hour, or they're told to go home on the bus and not pee for an hour. And that's the standard of care today. If you heat it up, this has been known for many years, it works better. We heat the cells. We're using the fluid to heat the cells. When you heat the cells, the magic happens. More drug is absorbed. It works faster. And this immunologic thing, Brant Inman at Duke University did a lot of work with us in this. If you do a small animal model and you heat up a bladder with a tumor in it, you see immunologic markers going up. And that's okay. That helps any residual tumor. If you then implant a tumor somewhere else in the poor, unfortunate little mouse, those immunologic markers go up again and the tumor disappears. This is called the abscopal effect. So I learn what it means is that you've created an immunologic response to cancers. This is why our recurrence rates and progression rates are so much lower than these big, sexy, multi-billion-pound drugs that you take systemically and just trash your body.
There was a question from Brandon. Are there any other players focusing on the HIVEC solution? So a bit about competition in HIVEC.
There's been a couple that have had a go because it seems incredibly logical. If it works in the abdomen, why not make it work in the bladder? Well, the guys who are having the abdominal treatments are under general anesthetic for 12 hours. So if the temperature goes up or down a bit, probably doesn't work as well, but the patients don't complain. Our guys in the bladder, they're in busy urology clinics. They will be 20, 30, 40% of the patients that they'll see in urology clinics, bladder cancer guys coming in for their treatments. They have no analgesia. They have no anesthesia. They have busy nursing staff trying to treat them and get the next guy through. If those patients are not comfortable, then they jump up and down and scream. Then the nurses jump up and down and scream. And then they go off and find the doctors with their pitchforks and burning torches and say, we're not doing this terrible thing in our busy clinics. There is one other company who do something similar. They use radio frequency inside the bladder, sort of microwaves inside the bladder to heat it. And it works. Their data's okay. Look at their dropout rates and their tolerability. It's terrible. I see various of their machines around the world and they always have a tarp thrown over them and are being used as a coffee table whilst ours is churning out patients in the other room. I see your question about nanoparticles, Dan. Yes, sort of, is the answer. We got so far down a route with a US company who had a liposomal encapsulated, so we're bigger than nanoparticles here. We're like something you can see, well, I don't know, under a microscope. But inside this little fatty capsule, they put a chemotherapy. So you whiz that around your system systemically in your blood. And then if you heat the organ up, at that organ and only at that organ, this melts off, and the drug dose is unloaded on that organ. Now, they were very keen, and then they ran out of money, and now they have some more money again, so we're talking to them again. There are 1,000 things that we can do with this technology. There's a lot of other things in bladder, whereby heating it up with steroids or with things that improve the protective layer inside the bladder could help with overactive bladder and these sort of terribly debilitating conditions that hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people have around the world. But we exist. We turn over 4 or 5 million US, but every study costs another 10. I suspect that when this goes to one of the big boys, they will use it for many other things. All right, Dan, sorry, I see your hands up.
Yeah. So could you go to the map of the world where high
I know
vet...
you like this slide.
Well, I mean, you're showing us where the gold is, and you're there, right? So I'm curious, are those various countries represented by the pair, or is it just one or the other? I mean, that's the go-to-market. That sounds like
Yeah.
a cost that pays for itself pretty fast.
Yeah, we're a bit newer into the world of high PEC than high VEC. So we're a bit newer into abdomens than bladders. So we're in about 10 places, mostly Western European, with the abdominal one. And it's a little different there. The costs would run about the same, but they have one big treatment instead of 15 little ones. And then the rest of the places, we're in with the bladder. I've been to all of these places, I think, and have an anecdote about every one. So, as always, our Spanish business is excellent. It's a highly populated country where our manufacturing is done, actually, where everybody smokes. Ditto Southern Europe, ditto Turkey. And then in places in the north of Europe where they have screening sometimes for bladder cancer, we have great business too. Belgium is a place where they screen very well. And if you look at the Benelux figures for bladder cancer, they're through the roof. Now, these guys are clean living, healthy Northern Europeans on their bicycles. However, if you screen for disease, you catch an awful lot more of it. We're in 50 hospitals in the UK NHS. We're in pick a country. I went to Tizi Ouzou in Algeria to do both high PEC and high VEC. There's 5 or 6 of us running around the world doing this at the moment. We exist, but we need this study to give us the data, the big data that allows us into the US and your wonderful pricing, and then gives us credibility that will lead to much more reimbursement around the world too. Mr. Conley, yes.
Well, you keep hitting on great points here. So there's 5 or 6 of you running around the world. I would be very interested to see this heat map, if you will, in a heated up way, right? In other words, it's not just the whole damn Russia. There's like 5 places, or and why not Japan here, and why not South Korea?
Japan is horrible. I defer to my colleagues in regulatory who spoke earlier. If you can get Japanese FDA approval, the best of British luck to you. There are some real horrors on here from a regulatory point of view. Japan has this its second biggest healthcare market in the world, protectionist as hell. Russia has taken us about, how long are we into now, Jen? 6 years. Brazil, we're just about to start with high VEC. There are some easy targets here always. when you start with a product, you think you would do Northern Europe first because the CE mark is easy, and those are relatively wealthy markets. They're all conservative. So you actually start in Southern Europe, and you go and do Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Turkey, these places to build some clinical confidence and credibility and some cash. And then you take over Northern Europe, where people believe the data, and then you spread slowly. Our expert in high-tech is on a flight back from India as we speak. He's somewhere between Delhi and Munich because we've been doing high-tech cases in Lucknow this week. So yeah, we're there. I mean, I could spend another happy hour putting dots on the map of places I've been here, I'm sure.
Well, they're going to spring up. I mean, that's the point, right? You have a I muted myself, sorry. You described, or somehow in the TEN Capital environment, a description of $1.6 billion enterprise value means that there's a lot of maps, little dots that represent large populations. You nailed it with the smokers, and there's just a tremendous demographic happening. What I'm mostly keen on is as an investor, getting into trouble is easy, right? I send you a check and I'm in, but then getting out of trouble is everything. So there has to be enough. There's enough money here. I mean, the fact that Combat Medical, as you described, can put $2 million of its own free cash flow into the bladder cancer trials, while it's out making money with the abdominal cancer high tech. And so the stepping stones of matching the high PEC instrument with a high VEC bladder cancer instrument is the whole point here. So we need, I would really like to get some of the brain trust of Russ Rogers and Christina Haismer, who just saw your presentation and could probably describe what the FDA or what regulatory bodies, you mentioned CE mark, are they going to require, and then how many patients, how much cost, how much time, and then so how much money do we need to be raising for the Series B, which is something you said in your game, you kind of winged it, 27, 28, I don't know, $10 million. I've seen a lot of other companies that are presenting in this space that have similar profiles. They have those details nailed down. And if a Corto could weigh in here and describe what they might, I know they're shooting from the hip, so I'm not asking you to stick to any numbers or timelines. I just would like to get some input from expertise like yours.
I can offer no expertise in the area of finance, but fortunately, our CFO is on the call. Can you talk to the Series B for a moment, Jen?
She may have stepped away, but while that's happening, Nate Walker commented, I work with an employer-sponsored health plans, and we're constantly looking for more patient-friendly, cost-effective options, and this sounds promising. Anything to say to that, Guy?
Yeah, it's nice when you're sat in a room full of money, men and ladies, that every single treatment you do costs $100 billion, so you need to do 4 treatments and everybody becomes rich. But we must remember this is a highly, highly prevalent disease of old, poor people. Somewhere there is a need, a moral obligation to treat these guys. Make a quid while you're doing it, don't get me wrong. But yeah, for employer health plans, for socialized health plans, for even the private healthcare providers, South Africa is a good example there. The private healthcare providers love us because it allows them to treat these really difficult patients for whom the only other option would be having their bladder and often prostate removed at the same time, and then a lifetime of paid for continence care, pads, catheters, who knows what. We can provide something that gives these guys another 3, 4, 5 years with their bladder. Often they're old people and something else may have got them by that stage. So the socialized healthcare side, the employer plans, the national providers like the NHS are very interested in this.
Great. Christina, did you have a question?
No question, but I did want to chime in, Dan, on your question earlier on, I believe you had mentioned clinical costs. Is that was your question earlier?
Yeah, how many patients, how many sites?
Sorry, Dan, yeah, that one got lost.
What's preferred? What's preferred?
So as it stands today,
Guy, I'm trying to get Christina to tell us her secrets. It's like free advice for you.
Right. So the questions really are the way we manage this with our clients is the FDA has very specific guidance, but it's really dependent on their current thinking for each of these products at that snapshot in time. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, with the change in administration and with the change in reviewers and with the change in staff at the administration right now, we're going to be seeing some differences in what they feel is the current their current guidances on what they're going to be looking for when it comes to these projects. How we typically handle this is we will enact communications with the agency throughout the project, such as Q submissions or pre-submissions, and get pulse checks with the agency on what their current thinking is on these matters to ensure that we are constantly adjusting to match their current thinking as the project goes on, to make sure that once we get into these clinicals, we're planning accordingly and we don't miss the mark when it comes to the final submission. So unfortunately, Dan, I can't give you a final number on that, and I can't give you more specifics than that.
Okay. Well, have you done any cancer projects as a company? I mean, is there something that you can relate to here?
Our team members have in the past, but like I said, with changes in administration, I'd be shooting darts at a wall to give you a firm number on this right now.
We've got a number, and our trial has been approved by the FDA. They're only interested in those worst patients, those 54 guys, if you like. And they told us to go away and do 100 of those. We then fed that through our statisticians and the clever guys on that side, and the number came back as 135, I think. So our actual full trial is 238 because we're doing a second arm. That's the guys who don't have it quite so bad. And that's where our big numbers come from on revenues. If we didn't get into the US, our busy places take, two places you've never heard of in the UK, Sheffield and Leicester, big university hospitals in traditional working class Denver style areas, if you will, big bladder cancer centers. They're doing a lot because they believe and they found some funding for it. If everybody else drank the Kool-Aid, saw the data and believed it, and we replicated that across our 300-400 other centers in the world where they're doing a few, then all of a sudden you can multiply our revenue by 10, 20 without US entry. So that's where our areas will be. I mean, of course, we hope with this in front of you here that on a fairly low numbered trial, powered to just north of 100 people, if we can get 50% complete response rate at 3 months, and we expect 75 to 80, maybe even 85, and that's what has been shown in our pilots, then we're at the races and the FDA press the button. We go away. We've lost Jen. I think there's been some IT issue, but that's when the Series B would look in. My understanding is it's 10 million raise. Once we have interim data, and that raise prepares us for, from a practical, pragmatic product preparation point of view, US entry, working with our friends medtech, who are the largest manufacturer of mitomycin in the world. That's the drug that's used. It will be specifically with their formulation, which is better than generic formulations because XYZ, I mean, just is because they're the biggest guys in the world. It dissolves better, is my understanding of it. So that will allow us protection in the market, and then we will be the only FDA approved, easy, affordable, tolerable treatment for bladder cancer.
That's perfect, Guy. Thank you for your presentation today.
No problem. A pleasure. As I say, I like the sound of my own voice. So thank you, Dan, for feeding me in a few times as well. That was very good. We're getting a nice little double act thing going on here. I like it very much.
Yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't get used to it, but it's a good start. I'm kidding. But yes, the next time this will surely be shorter, but there was a lot of great information in that.
Thank
Dan,
you.
do you want to go ahead and start your presentation?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So go. All right. So I'm Dan Conley. There's my email address. You can send me stuff. I'm pretty responsive. I do three things. Well, I work for my grandkids, and I don't have to work. I love what I do. So I'm pretty competitive. So I want entrepreneurs to win. And the first thing I do is I help with Entrepreneurs University programs, which we had yesterday, and it featured Combat Medical, and it featured Sinaptica Therapeutics, and it featured TransRadio and 7 other companies. And we do that every month, which is amazing because I'm just humbled and grateful for the angels, coaches, and experts who flock in to provide feedback, insights, marketplace intelligence, competitive analysis, resources, regulatory advice, all complimentary during the program. Everything is free. There's a $300 forum fee, but pretty much, you get to pick the brains of an IP, world-class IP polymer scientist, patent attorney, for example, right? So we ask that the entrepreneurs come prepared, pose questions, and when we send out the flyer, here it is. This is what you're looking for there. Where'd it go? I had a flyer up here to show you. Oh, now I got to pull it up. Okay, I'm so busted. This is so if you go to Entrepreneurs University or entreuniv.org, you'll see the list of excuse me, I have to focus here. I don't know where it went. Oh, it must be up on it's PDF, so it's up on the bar. Hold on. I got too many things going on here. Here it is. And I can share that, or I can share this. Okay, here it is. And so now share. Okay, I'm going to share this one because it came up first. And here it is. Good. Can you see that? It says CEO forums. Yeah, we're on. I passed the test. So this is Jeff Rosedale. So Edward Bruce White is the CEO of Combat, and yet we had and I've misspelled HIVAC. Oh my goodness! Push-ups for me. It should be a C, not a K, because the C stands for cancer. Anyway, and there's Randy Hubble. So we record these meetings. So going back a bit, the purpose of the Entrepreneurs University is up here in this corner, and it's since 1984, was initially formed on the campus of Rutgers, which is down the street from me here, as the MIT Enterprise Forum. And so without MIT being able to control it, we just took it over. I privatized it, and we populated the sponsors with people who are at the bottom of this list here. These are angels, coaches, and experts. They all have advanced degrees, brilliant people. They're paying it forward. They're giving it back. They're all succeeded in something to be there. So in a quick review, these are 20-minute forums, and it's a 10-minute pitch and a 10-minute Q&A. So the kind of questions that Guy just got from me are actually new questions. We asked a whole bunch of other questions yesterday. And then last week, Guy and Edward Bruce White were in the Venture Summit West, which is a huge collection of 200 VCs, dozens of angels, and 150 companies, all at the Computer History Museum for 2 full days. It's fantastic. And so, congratulations to Combat Medical being sharp enough and proactive enough to know where to go to the watering holes where investors chew the fat, share the insights, look for warning signals from others. Have you seen this company? What do you think? So that's very helpful. And then angels are all over the country. We're all on Zoom now. Thank you, COVID. It's like the one good thing. And so what is shown to happen is that everything speeds up. The exchange, we used to do due diligence the old-fashioned way, go drive to the office building or the factory, etc. We still do the factory, but anyways, we can do that from a webcam too. So the point I want to make is that speeding up the process is very valuable. What I specialize in, I told you that I work with my grandkids. I run this Entrepreneurship University program. It's been around for 41 years, 33, where I'm sort of the organizer, air traffic control, invite the companies in, keep the web lackey paid, etc. And then we bring together this really fantastic individuals, like many dozens more than I just listed here. And so they're there to just give freely wisdom, mostly a Socratic method, asking the question, seeing how much the companies know. We also then bring the companies into a due diligence process. I'm a co-founding member of the Curates Forum Mid-Atlantic chapters in 2011. And so 15 years of that, they already had cracked the code and were doing the due diligence like I used to do when I was with GE Capital or Chancellor Group, and Chancellor was a general partner of a whole series of investment trusts. So we needed to know everything about everybody. And that's back in the dark ages, really, of just getting these computer systems to talk to each other and track all these files and et cetera, and build a package. And the trusts, by the way, were high net worth individuals and family offices and groups, corporations, everyone's who's looking for a tax shelter or a way to gain passive income. Incredible stuff. So the idea that that level of sophistication requires at least a $5 million transaction means that actually you just take away a few digits and suddenly you're doing $50,000 transactions and having to do the same amount of digits. Now with data rooms, et cetera, much better automated. So I've been involved in algorithms that would set these things in motion, deal flow and investor flow and matchmaking. So we're doing it still, and it's for early stage entrepreneurs, sort of to know before you go, what questions are going to be asked and what things you need to be able to demonstrate, and as opposed to just claim. There's a lot of, how do you know, how can you prove it, how can you prove it, and then is that true, right? That's the 3 steps of our due diligence in every topic under the sun. What's nice to know is that there are methods out here that are well known. The Curates Forum, like I said, has a wonderful process, and they also have a huge handbook, and you should be able to get it. They've shared this with a lot of people. It's the due diligence, 400 pages or something like this. So it's asks for everything, and then that's a very healthy thing. So entrepreneurs are a little bit much. I'm going to get the books over here. The entrepreneurs are more ADD. They want to get right to the point. So the good news is that David Rose, here he is right here. David Rose. I hope you can see this. Let me know when it's visible to you. He wrote this book here, which is Angel Investing. And it's a robust, detailed, checklist-centric book. For angels, you got to know, don't go until you know, right? With the checkbook. So he also wrote, for the other half of the equation, the startup checklist, which is like, okay, what do I need to know to impress him? And then so David Rose is fabulous. He'll be at the Angel Summit next week. His co-founder at the New York Angels is Brian Cohen. And Brian wrote what every angel wants you to know, right? Do your homework, right? Don't waste our time. If we find you wasting our time, it's not just no, it's hell no. So that's bad. And so we want to be nurturing and encouraging and give entrepreneurs directions, structure, perhaps discipline, and that's how due diligence happens. So here's all these companies. Now I'm just going to point out Transradial. I'm going to point out Sinaptica, Sword Bio, CRISPR QC, and AIM Medical Robotics has a halo. And so when I'm showing you, the reason I bring those to market is to the point is I'm going to share another screen, which shows a whole bunch of our investments. And here it is now. Boom, boom. I'm getting good at this. Okay, I'm getting better at this. Let me put it that way. And boom. Okay, so now share that one. So here's a bunch of our recent investments and older investments. For example, you just saw Sword Bio pitch yesterday for $1 million expanding capital. We invested in them in 2008. Whoa, were we crazy? Well, a little, but the idea was that they had some amazing IP that gave them the ultra, super duper ultra sensitive assay of that by the way, the U.S. Navy developed. And now it's being, finally, Bristol Myers Squibb and maybe, combat medical type companies are able to use this assay to really verify a lot about their compounds. So we go way back. So two of these are anti-cancer companies that I invested about 70 grand into them and got back $1 million. I want to do that a lot, right? That is rinse, recycle, repeat. And so they're out there and we're seeing them all the time. We have to get wiggy with them at the right time. They have to be just, Goldilocks timing rather. So there's a whole bunch of companies on here. A couple went public. So let me just get this, let me bring this up a little bit better here. So we get down, you can see at the 3 from the bottom, there's Sword Bio, used to be called Sword Diagnostics. The Neogenomics company is one of the ones that went unicorn at the very bottom there. The we'll be seeing Actuated Medical tomorrow at the Invent Penn State. That was 5 years ago I invested. There's a whole bunch of other companies on here. Seneca's an anti-cancer company. Another one, anti-cancer, was Sinaptica Therapeutics. They warm up tumors from inside with these tiny gold nanorods, which hot dog size, they're just shaped and they warmed up with infrared energy, and they call up the same heat shock proteins that Guy Cooper talked about. And what the immune system of the body does is say, oh my goodness, I'm burning up, get rid of it. So those heat shock proteins, like the monkeys in the Wizard of Oz, they fly off to take out the trash of the colorectal tumor, for example. There's another bunch of that's Siva Gold right there. And then Immunomic Therapeutics, that's another one of the unicorns. Long story, not going to happen now. I want to get to the good, even better news. Valeda is a therapeutic instrument that dry AMD can now be treated. And so they're the next unicorn on this list. Thrive Bio above them. Tom Farb-Horsch has started 17 companies, and 7 of them have become unicorns. This is clearly going to be his 8th. So we want to know, and we can measure now, after doing this for like a long time, what are the traits of those CEOs who can do unicorn, and they can do it early, and they can let people like me know that they can do it early, so we can get wiggy and invest and get in trouble together. The point I want to make is that the financial engineering is actually why some of these things went unicorn. The technology works. It is the jockey. It is. So we have a 22 criteria scoring system that I've been using for OMG 35 years, since Chancellor and GE Capital. The 12 show me keys of raising early stage capital while avoiding the 10 deadly sins while raising early stage capital. So there's a balance. And people can, oh my goodness, I'm making that sin, I can fix that, right? But if they don't have a show me key, they got to get working on it, or they got to get coaching or whatever the expertise to bring it on board. So now the top 4 here have all gone through our boot camp, and we have a whole twice a year cycle. It starts with the boot camp, the CEO forums, and then best of the best CEOs bake off of the money, like the upper right hand corner there. So that's what's now happening in my world. On yesterday was quarterfinals. Tuesday, the 6th of May, is semifinals. And then the week after Big Bio and Resi up in Boston, excuse me, is the best of the best CEOs bake off on the money. And we always invest in one of them. and we're going to do it again. So the reason why these top four are our top four is they're chronological investments, but they all had similar patterns, like a 22 criteria stuff. They all said, wow, Dan, that sounds great. When I said, well, okay, what we're going to do with my angel collective, my angel support, my angel cash, is we're going to go through due diligence, and we pick the Keiretsu Forum Northwest every time. They're just so nice. I know I co-founded the Mid-Atlantic chapter. I'm a Seattle-centric kind of fellow now because they're just so nice. They're deep pockets. They know this stuff. They're more willing to jump in and row. More hands-on oars, stronger people. Anyway, so the top one here, Randy Hubble Transradio. It's a brilliant device that goes on the wrist. It sucks. That wound that was caused by the catheter needle, this is how people get their transfusions, except now Guy Cooper just explained how they're going to send that chemotherapy in through the bladder. Oh, you don't have to do it. And here, or the femoral artery, which I'm not going to bother pointing out. But this one, compression is old school. Now we got suction, and this little widget is terrific. You're going to love seeing it. Now, the point here is Randy Hubble is, well, the golden boy at J&J when he was recruited in as the launch manager for Cypher Stent. The Cypher, CYPHER, Cypher Stent was the first drug-eluting stent of its kind. He has an amazing background. He's perfect for this job, and he's doing it. So he went through the due diligence. So the best thing that came out of this was a 2-page interview, which I did. We were trying to draw out, did he have to demonstrate real grit, perseverance? Like, in other words, you look behind, not this one, but usually have a picture of the Valley of Death behind me. And in the far distance is the Mount Perseverance. So you got to get through the Valley of Death with your Series A and start climbing that Mount Perseverance with your Series B, so you can get over it into the lush green meadows of free cash flow, where all of the acquirers are luring you in with 7 and 9 and 12 figure, acquisitions, because you deserve it. So I wish that for Guy, 1.6 billion. I'm sticking with that number. I'm thinking when, though, 2035, 2038. It's out there. Well, we'll talk about it, Guy. I mean, we got to do regression analysis here, because people don't buy just because you walk in. Oh, although some people might buy when you walk in. Not everyone does, right? So, anyway, due diligence is important. Randy Hubble, he built this company to sell, and it's going to. So we're already talking to 5 acquirers. We're already speeding through the regulatory hurdles. It's a class 1 device in Brazil. It's a class 2 device in the United States. We've already costed out a very efficient 27, 30 something patients trial. And the safe goes on, and then the suction takes place, and it doesn't close the artery from pumping blood. It just simply speeds the process by which that wound will self-heal. And so instead of compression, it's suction. Like I said, the Terumo is the industry leader. Their TR band is all about compression. And so that it's coming off patent this year. So they want a replacement with the industry leading new best toy. It doesn't cost anymore. It's probably less expensive, etc. The point is that the nurses love it. They can set and forget this safe, versus the TR band. They have to keep fluttering around and checking on that patient in the catheter lounge every, so often. 4 manipulations take place typically per patient. Now with the safe, we're seen and shown 0 after it's placed correctly. So that's just great news. That's a classic. So what we're doing there financially is a $3 million participating preferred. It's the only round. Participating preferred is attractive. It's 2 bites of the apple. I can do the waterfall for you, but I'm not. And I'll just say that it's at 7 million pre, so 10 million post, and then it's going to get bought for probably $50 million by Terumo or Teleflex or 5 other suitors that we're already in cahoots with. That's just great. So Ken Mariusz, number 2 here, he's a top gun from Boston Scientific. He was the guy who brought in the radio frequency ablation unit to Codman division of J&J, and it was his franchise, and it became fabulous, and they blamed him, just kind of like they blamed Randy. He had $1 billion in revenue in 8 months. He was at the right place, the right time. So it's all about, you know, quality people. And then Greg Fisher, here it is. This gentleman is a robotics rock star, and he has invented this AIM Halo, which I'd love to show you, but I'm not. You can go to the website. That is plastic, and therefore it's MRI safe. And the robot can bring, that is like it is a stereotactic frame that helps the neurosurgeon perform the hole in the head surgery to then deliver deep brain stimulation. So this is Parkinson's patients, and this is epilepsy, and this is glioblastoma. They don't deliver electricity to brain tumors, they deliver laser ablation. We get rid of it. The beauty here is that once the patient asleep can get into the MRI instrument, this thing is safe in there. So the entire procedure takes place, boom, on image with the MRI. Nothing's missed. The sliding in and out of, which is the best, it's, you know, it's very skippy good, right? If I had to do, we'd all be safe if we had to do it. But sometimes the brain moves and there's blind spots. No one talks about this, but the neurosurgeons that I interviewed in my due diligence with this company explained to me they really want it because they want no blind spots. They don't want to have to go into grandma and say, ooh, we missed a little bit of your glio, it's back, right? They want to nuke it and move on. So the point of the robot is that this is especially efficient with multiple sites, and that's almost always the case of the Parkinson's patient. So the idea that, and Novo Nordisk is loving this, Boston Scientific is showing up at AIM Halo, not Ken, his successors, Medtronic, a couple of other, AbbVie, excuse me. Okay, so the point is that Greg Fisher here, CEO of aimmedicalrobotics.com. I don't think I have the website here, but the point is that we're doing first in humans at Brigham and Women's, Mass General right now for Parkinson's patients, because the neurosurgeons love the fact that the patient can stay asleep. They have the entire thing captured, and they can do the multiple site thing. So instead, a 4-hour surgery becomes a 3-hour surgery, maybe even more efficient. The accuracy of the pre-planned stereotactic frame settings creates greater accuracy. I think they're going to be able to show that too, because otherwise it's a manual adjustment. It's not a robotic adjustment. So stuff happens. The fourth company here is another one of the huge unicorns that we found really early at the seed stage. I've invested 3 times in the seed, in the safe, and then in the Series A. Ross Bundy and Dr. Canna Aaron invented what was called then the cardiobio chip, graphene. It's the CRISPR chip, and that's what it's known worldwide as. And yesterday in Copenhagen at the big global conference of gene editing, it was unveiled. What was unveiled? This is the seminal paper by NIST and the FDA that is, they led the gene editing consortium, and they've had CRISPR QC on the job for the last 2.5-3 years now, because they have to set measures so that the FDA can approve more of these gene editing things. There's like 75 companies who are in clinical trials with a new gene editing therapeutic, not necessarily a cure, but there is the cure, the sickle cell anemia cure. You've heard about that. And the point is that the 75 other gene editing clinical trials, they all want to use the CRISPR chip, but they want the FDA to bless it. So they've done that. That was yesterday. There was a huge unveiling. We're going to raise probably a $30 million Series B. We're going to get our 50 million pre on that. And mostly because we have $1 million worth of revenue from the big dogs. You know how big pharma, they take forever, but they sniff it, they lick it, they like it, they love it, and then they get addicted. Boom. So AstraZeneca, Bristol Myers Squibb, Beam Therapeutics, Epix Bio, who's another big one, BioSpring. And 3 dozen more. They're all onboarding. They're all using the data analytics tool set that these measures enable. So think of, as you've heard in some newscasts, I hope, that, oh, gene editing, it's the new greatest thing on the planet. And then, no, artificial intelligence, that's the new great. What if you combine them? Oh my goodness, they did. So what gene editors are able to do now is predict the outcomes, and no side effects, no deleterious off-target events, which is like really healthy. This CRISPR chip is the most sensitive biosensor that can translate into a digital capture that goes on at that tiniest level. You've all seen it in double helix where their gene is snipped, and it can ensure that, yes, just that gene and no others. Up till now, up till people are using the CRISPR chip and other, data analytics tools in gene editing, it's been brute force. It is timely, it's expensive, and it's constantly not hitting the mark, or it's hitting the mark, but it hits 2 or 3 other marks. Oops, got to go back. So this is a force multiplier for all these companies in gene therapy. BioTools are one of my favorites because, and there's a big, I tell later, there's a few companies on here. So we got behind Sword Bio, like I just talked about, back in 2008, because we are superlative investors. In other words, it was the most ultra sensitive test ever. We're in. The CRISPR chip, the only one. We're in. The only plastic robot that can become a stereotactic frame. Okay, we're in. We got to find them. We got to check them out. We want to, earn for the value we create, as any consultant would. But we're in as investors mostly. So, like I said earlier, I do the 3 things. I work for my grandchildren. I run the Entrepreneurs University. I become an angel investor, as you've seen here, and then that's just to get into trouble. To get out of trouble, I become the on-call CFO for fundable teams. So I'm here to help them raise capital. I know a lot of nooks and crannies. It's not just 100 or 200 accredited entities that could invest. I know thousands who could say no, and they're qualified to say no, and they might actually give constructive, valuable feedback on the process of saying not yet, or not on my watch, or in other words, it takes a while. Most investors like to see what Combat Medical is doing. They're showing up everywhere. They're at Venture Summit West. They're at the week before that. They were at MedInvest in New York City, Capital. So it's good to get the tires kicked. These are rubber bullets mostly. It's almost always crickets, apathy, ambivalence, skepticism, dripping with sarcasm. Feedback from investors is usually kind of a drag. And so most angels are not that way, but everyone's a little overtaxed. So we go to these big, thank you for the Zoom. We're on Zoom a lot. This works great. There's syndication groups around the country picking the best and brightest. The Curates Forum has the biggest one, which is 48 other angel groups. I'm one of them. And we convene next Tuesday on Zoom to see what's coming to market. Who are the best of the best companies? Transradio is one of those, for example. And Ken Mariash and Sinaptica went through that process, and they just closed $1 million worth of fresh angel capital from our Curates Forum pals, Landmark Angels, and some of the folks that I am affiliated with. And then Greg Fisher, when he finished and closed the convertible note at the end of 2024 successfully with about 2.5 of fresh cash plus other conversions from before I got started with them a year ago. And now we're about $1.5 million from the goal line of 9 million at a 24 post. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Somebody has a question there. I think that's Kat.
Yes, Dan, I just wanted to let you know that we will be wrapping this up at 4:30. So final thoughts, any questions, or how would you like to do this, Dan?
Well, I think everyone to jump on me and ask me tough questions about how I'm going to say, why I'm going to possibly say no to Guy Cooper. I haven't figured that out yet, but so I would think that people might want to ask questions about what we look for. I was the 22 criteria. You have my email address. I'm pretty responsive to requests. I'll send you the 22 thing. Venture, it's going to look like a venture evaluation agreement because it is. And so you can use that with special attribution. That's from Fred Best. He's a famous venture capital who took me under his wing. And the 10 deadly sins are mine. So just use you can use it, but give proper attribution. That should be like a thing. There's other things about investing, and people can come to our programs, whether they're pitching or not. We pretty much an open door. We okay. So any questions? Put them in the chat box or just ask me. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat box. Christine, you came back in the video. You want to push back some tough questions against me? I was asking you some.
I think just for everyone on the call here, and this could help with our programs as well. As an angel investor, when you're looking and doing due diligence for the entire company, what specific regulatory landmarks are you looking for from the companies you're looking to invest in?
Oh, nailed it. So we're always going to ask, tell us how you're going to get from here to there, right? And they always say, well, we're going to raise this much, blah, 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 and things are going to happen. And I'm like, well, how is that designed? You know who has a really good answer for that is Sinaptica, because their only trial, the phase 2 data was strong. And we're like, every company says that. How do you know that? I mean, how can we prove that, right? Oh, the FDA said, sure. And we're like, that's not enough. They're the government. They're not my angel advisor who actually knows stuff. They're sort of guessing, well, it's been here long enough. Let's push it out. We don't agree with that. So what happened with Sinaptica is that a top global investment bank in New York City has conferences, and they're constantly, looking for best and brightest like everybody. And they had this panel of Alzheimer's drugs, publicly traded companies that are bringing Alzheimer's drugs to market. He is the person who says, I believe it, I know it, I understand it. So he said to me, hey, Dan, I know Ken's company. I've seen that data. It's really good. I'm like, why do you think so? He goes, even though it was only 32 patients and they were all the same site, the level of performance outcome of cognitive function, behavioral, and something, the third one, behavioral, cognitive, and emotional functions were all substantially increased. In other words, this is a brain refresh. So the fact that it's like a deep tissue massage for the brain using magnetism from outside. Wow. So it's going to actually be used in mild cognitive impairment, traumatic brain injury, other stuff. So it's much bigger than just Alzheimer's. But if you can do Alzheimer's, boy, you can do everything else. So we need for the entrepreneurs to be bringing to us when they said, we think we can do this, boom, and it's only going to cost this much, take this much time. We need like 5 sets of eyes, yours, Russ's, to say, okay, on the surface, that pattern is quite possible. Let's test it out. So we want to, when we get deeper into it, now we know with Sinaptica going to phase 3, this is even better. So we thought it was going to be a 300 patient full year trial, and entrepreneurs don't accept such, we push back. And so the FDA says, well, we're probably going to approve 6 months, 120 patients, as long as you have multiple sites. Oh my goodness, twice as fast, half the cost. Who doesn't love that? So it's all about testing assumptions. People come to us and say, we know our regulatory, we have a regulatory ACE. Well, okay, tell us all the reasons why. And we want to learn about where people are from. What was their childhood like? Are they competitive? Are they self-starters? Or are they just flying a desk and they have to cough up an answer? It's a huge difference. So is that helpful?
Yes, absolutely. That is right in line with what I was hoping you were going to say. So I think we are thinking on the same wavelength there.
Yeah, and so if one of my I'll get to you in a second, Guy. One of our companies said, "Hey, Dan, do you know anybody that does this stuff?" You're on the list, right? So you're gonna it's a marketing campaign. It's all about verifying, right? Testimonials. You probably have a kit that kind or a packet that says you can ask these 5 or 6 people. You can ask any of my CEOs. They'll say, "Yeah, okay, we weaponized Dan. We were worried there for a minute, but it worked out." So I've raised $1 million or more for every one of those companies, unless they blew it. Yes, Guy.
I'll ask you a nice cliched one then. What are you looking for? People or product?
Well, it is the jockey ultimately, and then the proof and how they know the cost and the timing of the proof, which is back to Accordo. That's essential. So you can fix the product, you can improve the product, you can shift gears, you can get another chemotherapy drug that works even better. There's so many variables there. But the entrepreneur, though, and the CEO person has got to pass through this 12 show me keys while avoiding the 10 deadly sins. They need to be willing to self-score. That's like drop your ego at the door, sir. We want you to tell us where you think you need help. And when entrepreneurs score themselves, I'm a 10 in all these categories, you're toast. Good luck with that. Go with God.
Cheers, Dan.
There are patterns for your Series B that reveal to me that, yeah, it could be 10 million, but you should be able to put it into bite-sized chunks for a series of accomplishments, raising the enterprise value as you go.
I think Jen's back on the call now. Jen, if you can speak to the Series B briefly with more, let's say, facts that I was able to, then that might help.
Sure. So was the question what we're expecting for our Series B spending?
When and
that what
how
you're
much
asking,
against the
Dan?
valuation of what when?
What when? Well, valuation, that's always a good
Yeah.
discussion. When we're looking somewhere 2 years down the line, use of funds, primarily to get our drug ready. So it will be the CMC testing to get the drug ready for the drug device combo. It'll also be setting up our US operations, getting some team in place, getting, all of the operational areas sorted to be able to launch in the US when we have the final results and our FDA approved.
Well, when you say drug, I thought you were using an approved chemotherapy drug already, and you were warming it up to zap the bladder tumors.
The
When we
US
go
are
into the US,
awkward.
sorry, go ahead, Guy.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, the US are awkward. Everybody uses the standard drug off-label. It's being used 10,000 times in San Francisco in the week I've been here. But
What's
it's
it called?
off-label. Mitomycin generally. But all of them are docetaxel, gemcitabine, others. And because they're now generics, no drug company is going to spend $1 squillion to get it licensed up.
What's yours
However,
going to be called? What are you going to call yours? Is it similar to, or is it completely different from
it's the same. It's in an 80 milligram concentration, which is unusual because nobody else can make the good stuff that dissolves at that level.
And importantly, the way that we're packaging it up, the drug device combo will allow us to get our own J code.
We're down to our last minute. Does somebody want to make a 1-minute pitch?
I've done mine 30 times.
Well,
I was saying to Jenna, I thought that I thought an elevator pitch was something that elevated the business. I didn't realize you guys meant like you were stood in a lift. This is two great nations separated.
I was today years old moment.
Well, I do appreciate you all being here. Although it isn't our traditional event, I hope that you will be around for our next event next week, 4/16. We have our virtual quick pitch. So until then, see y'all soon. Have a great day.